I'm about to show you what the real life of a billionaire looks like. Meet Mohan Murjani. He built iconic brands like Tommy Hilfiger and transformed the global jeans market from simple workwear into stylish fashion.
As soon as the store opened, there was a deluge of women that just rushed to the department. All the jeans were gone.
Born in India and raised in Hong Kong, he became a billionaire by the age of 35.
I was the first non-Jew and certainly non-American to come into this in a big way.
Mohan shared how a simple idea ignored by big companies made him $500 million in a year, how he ended up jamming with the Beatles, and why Thailand is so special that he chose it as his new home and built one of the most exceptional British-style mansions in Asia. I promise, this story will blow your mind. Let's go!
When I came here, I just felt very much at home. I felt I was back in old Hong Kong. It was like, because the buildings and everything were much older. They weren't like the modern, Hong Kong is. And 12 years ago, Phuket had less buildings than it did today. You could buy fresh fruits, from the stalls, from the markets, from wherever, and not necessarily going into the supermarket. There were so many elements that reminded me, and you had beautiful beaches. So there were so many elements of old Hong Kong. And I just fell in love. But most importantly, it was the people of Thailand. I've traveled in many countries in this world throughout my life. I have never seen a more welcoming nation and people than the Thais. I've never gone anywhere in the world where, if you go to visit, let's say you go to France or anywhere, and you don't speak the language, and they'll look at you and they'll just talk by and they give you that, and no, I don't speak French, sorry, and they're gone. You want to ask them a question, they're gone, same thing. But when we're the foreigner here in Thailand and we don't speak their language, they smile and they help us. And if they don't speak English, they will go and find somebody and bring that person who speaks English to help us. They don't just walk away and leave you stranded. They're just such a helpful, giving, generous people. I've never seen people like this, and they're not violent, they're not abusive, they're very gentle and kind, and that's related back to Buddhism. And Buddha, of course, was also a Hindu. So for me, Buddhism and Hinduism are the same because the Buddha was a Hindu. Yeah. So when I go I'm happy to go to the temples, I'm happy to go anywhere, and I feel very, very comfortable. So the main reason is really the Thai people, who are the most wonderful people on earth. Yeah. The most giving, the most, it's so funny because we all have such prejudices. When you hear a Thai person trying to speak English, we'll say, oh, he's speaking Tinglish, you're not speaking English. And it's the same if a Chinese tries to speak English, we say he's speaking Chinglish. He's not speaking English. But yet the same people, whether they're Chinese or Japanese or Thais, when the foreigner tries to learn and speak their language, and in spite of the fact that the foreigner is speaking totally broken Thai and totally mismatched words and terrible accent, they smile and they think it's so cute and so wonderful that the foreigner is making an effort to learn their language. And they feel so happy that the foreigner is making an effort to learn their language. Yeah. And yet when they try to learn English, we sort of look down upon them and say, oh, you're speaking English and you're not speaking proper English. Well, how, they're not English. That's not them. That's not their mother tongue.
They're not supposed to speak.
So that's when you realize the difference in the world of people. Yeah. And how when one nation and one people think that someone, look down on them, and meantime the Thais look up and look kindly upon everything that happens. So we're just very lucky to be here.
Yeah. I just stop for a second to want to say hi to your lovely people. They're hiding.
Yes.
No need to hide.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, they're so sweet. Just hiding, not to disturb the process. Sorry. Thank you.
People are wonderful. I mean, everyone who's is working here has been with us for a long time, and we take care of them. We treat them like family, and I'm always concerned about them and their children. If they're sick or a kid, how can I help? My one maid Because she left years ago, and then she went home to take care of her mother. And every year she has rice, and she's from the harvesting of her rice, and she'll send me a bag of the rice that she harvests.
So sweet.
You know, and it's so, you know,
That's
and this is, you know, you can't. That's what money cannot buy. You know, what follows on from my love for the Thais and how good they are is that Thailand is probably the only nation in Asia which was never controlled or taken by the foreigners. You know, whether Vietnam by the French, or Hong Kong by the British, Singapore by the British, India by the British, and so on, Indonesia by the Dutch. Thailand never had anyone occupy their territory. So the Thais maintained their culture all the way through. And what's wonderful is that whilst many nations in Asia, you know, looked up and had looked up, you know, over the decades to the American way of life, and whether it was the McDonald's and the pizzas and, you know, and looking at the movies and the TVs and trying to emulate their cultures and thinking that that was a better culture, you know, and not really understanding that their cultures went back thousands of years. America only came to existence a couple of hundred years. And on top of that, America is made up a mixture of many cultures. There is no, the America we're talking about is not what the Americans are. The old Americans are not considered the same Americans. But the main thing, the cultures are old cultures. And what's wonderful about Thailand, and what I find, you know, the single most wonderful thing about Thailand is about respect. Not only do they respect foreigners, but amongst themselves, they have such great respect for the elders. Elders meaning you could just be a year older to a person, and they have a different name for you. So if you're a girl, if there are two girls, they're friends, and if she's older, she'll be called, and let's say her name is P. Yui, they will say P. Yui. P. Yui means she's older than me, so I respect her. And if she's younger to you, she'll say Nong Yui. And Nong Yui means, they say it with love, that you're my younger sister and I'm going to take care of you. So everything is said with love. And then more importantly, when it comes to their parents and the older parents, they have an incredible sense of responsibility. It's not like the Western world where their parents are dying for the children to leave their homes and, you know, you got to get out of the nest and so on. Here it's totally the opposite. You know, they're welcome and they stay at home on a continuous basis, and generations go on and on. So for example, when they go out on a Thai New Year, when they call Songkran, and they're celebrating all night and they're spraying each other with water and drinking and partying and music's going on and having parades, but they never forget that no matter how much they've drunk or whatever time they've slept or not slept at all, come early in the morning at 6 o'clock, they would have had their showers or their bath, and they go to their parents and to give their respects and to seek blessings from their parents. And what they do is they bring them flowers, they bring them some water, they wash their feet, wash their hands, and take the blessings, and the parents tie a white thread around them to give them their blessings. And then what's wonderful is they then continue on for the next few hours, going to all the homes around them, especially to the elders and the grandparents or the older people, and do the same thing with all the older people. And they all they give is take little packets, and in those packets are just their basic amenities, things that they would use on a daily basis: toothbrush, toothpaste, some soap powder, rice, oil, whatever it might be. And then just to go and get their blessings. And by the time they come back, their arms are like, you know, you got the white threads going all the way through. And then after that, they come back, and then the family comes back to the family, and the family goes to temple, they do their prayers, and they feast in the temple grounds, and everyone has their lunch, and then the day continues. And another example of that, I mean, I remember meeting this lady who was a senior manager in a bank, in a large bank, and she told me she was just called me to let me know that she was going to be resigning, and I said, why? You know, you're holding something wrong, and she said, no, because my mother is sick. So I said, okay. So I couldn't quite understand why, if a mother's sick, why would she have to resign from her job, you know? And she said, no, because I want to take care of my mother. Now, she resigned, left her job, not knowing how long she's going to, go back to work, and if her mother's going to be well, unwell, how long it's going to take. But for her, it wasn't a sacrifice. It wasn't like she was giving up her career or she was doing anything unusual To her, it was just so natural. There was nothing unusual about doing that. Now, anywhere else in the world, nobody would do this. You know, they would never do this. And it's all part of their culture, their respect for the elders, their sense of humility, which is really the most important element of quality of a human being, is humility. Flowers don't last in Phuket. Unlike Europe, you can put some petunias in and you'll have them for the whole summer. But over here, the flowers will probably stay 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and that's it. And again, you got to keep changing them. So it's a massive change. And what was interesting?
This view is incredible. Like from here to there.
You see what's interesting? If you look, you got the mountains, and you see the mist just from that little rainfall.
Yeah. And why Phuket? Because Phuket is more raw compared to Bangkok, for example?
Well, I looked at Bangkok. I mean, you know, I happened to come to Phuket as a first stop. And of course, I fell in love with Phuket. It offered everything you could possibly need because you could choose a life to be busy. You could choose the life to be extremely laid back and relaxed and do nothing. You know, and the air is pure and it's clean air. There's no pollution here. The international airport, you know, you got daily flights connecting on a daily basis anywhere in the world, non-stop. You know, you can go non-stop, whether it's Dubai, Middle East, Turkey, you know, Hong Kong, Singapore, everywhere. You know, and the airport for us is 25 minutes away, so it's a very easy journey. And plus, you have a very nice expat community. So while it's nice being in Thailand, you still want, being an expat, you still want to be in an environment where you have expats where you can communicate with, where you can talk to, because I don't speak Thai. I wish I did, you know, but I still don't, and I don't feel good about that. I wish I had taken up Thai, which I tried, but I couldn't make it. And so it just offered everything that I was looking for. That you could have a busy life, you could have a laid-back life, you had expats, good friend, you had great weather all year round, you had clean air, you had excellent restaurants, and they're continuing to grow. And then what else do you need? And it's so easy, or was so easy, to get from point A to point B in the past. Now the traffic's getting a little busier. But if you went back to Bangkok, for example, it would be just another city. And that I've been in cities. I've been in, you know, whether it's Hong Kong, London, New York, Bombay. You know, I was tired of the city life, and that's not something I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
So Phuket I believe that Phuket is going to be the next Monte Carlo of Asia. Because if you look around, I don't think there's anywhere around Asia that has the ability to fill that niche, that particular niche. I think obviously some changes will have to take place politically for that to happen, and maybe they have to create some separate laws for Phuket itself. And I think that's something also that I believe they're considering. I don't know, but it's the only place where people from all over the world can come and feel safe. You know, there is no major issues for anybody to come, whether it's visas, whether it's nationalities, whether there's issues about, you know, war or terrorism or anything of the sort. So it's a very peaceful place, and it's a very easy place to get to. And it's a very private place, so when people want to be private, they can be private. Nobody needs to see them. They can come in their own private jets, have their own home, have their own private yachts, and you know, and really lead a reclusive life if they want to, and feel safe. And right now, with all that's been going on in this world, many of the wealthier folks, their biggest issue is where to live, and they're having problems.
Dubai, many choose.
Yes. So, you know, Dubai, either it's like, you know, go to a Disneyland or come to something real, you know, which is very different. Yeah. So it depends on the individual and the type of lifestyle you want. And sure, Dubai's got it all and more, but it's a different lifestyle.
It's different, yeah.
And it's different lifestyle. But there's not many places where people can come where they feel safe, where they are welcome and feel safe. And that's important, because many of the places, people are just either not welcome or they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so those people, many of them, that's why Monte Carlo does as well as it does. You know, Thailand and certainly Phuket got incredible medical facilities. I mean, our medical facilities are second to none. I mean, we're better. Again, I'll repeat, better. Not the same, but better than America, England, Europe, Hong Kong, Singapore, anyone. And I've been to all of them. I know them well. You walk into the hospital at Bangkok Hospital or any good hospital here, and it's like a 5-star hotel. They treat you with love, with respect. You're not treated like a number or a carcass, and you don't have to plan your visits and appointments, which could be 3 months away. And if I can't have this operation because you've got to wait in queue for 6 months if you're with the NHS or something, And so people, even in England, who are part of the government program, end up coming to Phuket, having their surgery, and then staying a month or whatever, and then going back to England because they don't want to wait 6 months, Yeah. And the cost of medical services is so much less than what they pay abroad, as is the insurance. You take a medical insurance, is so much less than what you have to pay abroad. From this part, it cuts straight through to the middle of the house where the cupola is, and it's straight to the Ganesha statue. It's all in one straight line. The center of the house, from this part, center house to Ganesha is one straight line.
Wow.
So symmetrically, it's a very balanced feeling.
It's very pleasant feeling. Yeah, exactly.
When it's symmetrical, everything feels good. If it's not symmetrical, you won't feel good. And you don't know why.
And you don't know why, exactly.
Yeah, but that's why,
Yeah, I know some people actually prefer Bali compared to Phuket. What's your view on Bali?
Bali is a wonderful place, beautiful place. But I think for Bali, the infrastructure is an issue. They've just got that one main road that comes in and out. I think Bali is a lovely place to visit. And I think it's probably good for someone who wants really a total laid-back life, and you want just do your yoga and just do meditation yoga and have that kind of a lifestyle. But I don't think Bali offers you the variety of lifestyles that you have in Phuket, and the access and the ability to come in and out and on a daily basis from different lifestyles. So you can choose in the morning to do one thing, in the afternoon to do something else, and then maybe evening or whatever decide to fly out and come back the next day. You can't do all of that in Bali. It's very, very, very difficult. It's really more of a holiday place or a totally chilled out place where you want to go and you just basically say, this is what I want my life to be.
Yeah.
It's a much more singular sort of type of place, but a wonderful place and wonderful people as well. Lovely people. The Balinese people are the same, very kind, very loving, lovely people. Lovely people. I came here in Thailand telling the Thai builders, I want to build a not only traditional, but I have an architect who's a perfectionist. So I wanted a really, proper Georgian, authentic, that's what I'm looking for, an authentic Georgian architecture. And the proportions, the detailing, there's so many detailing which they had never done before.
Yeah.
So that's what took a lot of time and sometimes doing and redoing. And then also what I wanted them to know is that from the time we finished, I said this property has got to look like it's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't want it to look new.
Yeah.
And they couldn't understand that. You're building a new house to make it look old?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was again another process.
You mentioned the expat community. Who are the most interesting people, like among your friends, among your community here in Phuket?
I've always found that, it's not about the community or nationality, it's about the people.
Yeah.
And I've always had friends from every nationality. I've got Brazilian friends, I've got Russian friends, I've got Armenian friends, I've got Indian friends, I've got Chinese friends, I've got British friends, Belgium, Netherlands, Holland, French, English. I have, I think, friends of practically every nationality. Yeah. And I think it's the same like everywhere else. You've got good people, bad people, interesting people, and not interesting people, and some people who are just people you want to stay away from, So I think there's enough of a choice here in Phuket. What's wonderful is that you have all the nationalities here, and some obviously you got more of, and some less of. But what's interesting, it's so, in a way, Phuket is like a little village. Like everyone knows everyone. And so if someone does something that's not been good, and if that same person tries to pull the same trick later on with someone else, and so, oh, wait a minute, no, this guy, he's not a good person, he did this and this. Everyone knows everything about everybody over here. So it's like a village mentality. And it's lovely because everyone is together. You can walk into any restaurant here and I'll always meet friends. And before going to sit on my table, I'll be walking this table and that table, and somebody will say, "Hi, Mohan," and "Hi, Mohan," and or something, and I'll be going and saying, giving them a hug and a kiss and everything, and then 5 minutes later, I'll go and sit on my table. And it's just wonderful that, everywhere you go, you have friends, and it's just a wonderful feeling. It's really beautiful. This is the heart. So from this heart, you go into the main. You come in the main entrance. You go to the kitchen. You go to the library. You go to the powder room, the dining room, the living room. You take a lift to go upstairs. So everything is based off this hall, and this is about I think it's about 8 meters high, 5 and 4, 8 to 10. 8. So this is 5 meters plus 4 meters, 10 meters high. It's a square design. So it's very easy. Even though you might be the only person staying here, you feel very comfortable because it's not like one end to the other end. They don't have a long walk. Everything is just central.
1 year of designing the project, then 7 years for building?
1 year, then 7 years of building. The wooden boards throughout the property, they come from old properties, and so they're like 100 years old. And so when we got them, they were like in terrible condition, dilapidated. We could only use half of them. But then after, refurnishing, half of that property, those wooden boards are incredible because they carry an incredible history with them. The patination is so different. They're totally different to a new board, for example. So it was, doing all these little things which took a lot of time. And the difficult part was it's not like building an English home in England where you can walk to a shop and buy lights or walk to wherever to buy this or buy that. Nothing. So like all the lights here, all the lights come from London, from the UK. We had to import all the lights, and things that we couldn't go and buy anything, we had to make. And then we have to design it, give them the design. They make a sample, it didn't work out right, make the next one and the next one. And finally we do it and we only order one piece. Whilst if you were in the UK, you just walk into any supplier or vendor who sells those and you buy that one piece and you're done. Today I'm free to live anywhere I can. I have no limitations. I have no limitations of health or finance, of my desire or being accepted. I'm accepted everywhere. I'm an Indian. Today it's accepted everywhere. We're not at war with anybody, with nothing. So I have a choice. I can go and stay anywhere and I'll be welcome anywhere. But my choice is here. This Phuket for me is the single best place on earth that I want to be, that I know of. And because it provides me with everything, provides me with the service, with the weather, with the lovely people around me, great friends, it's got everything, you can't ask for more. That's why I don't even travel so much. Every time I travel, I want to come back. I just don't want to go anywhere. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Our swimming pool, and it's got the waterfalls which start at the top of the mountain. And at the top of the mountain is where our spirit is. There's this huge, very big rock up there, which is like a turtle, and we call it Turtle Rock, and that's where the spirit, stays. And from there, from Turtle Rock, we get the water coming all the way down to the pool. And that's a kitchen garden. Over there, that scene that you see way back there is the dam that supports Phuket, this part of Phuket. And that's a national park, so hopefully nothing's going to be built up there for a while. And so we're just surrounded by green. It's no different than being... It's a Shangri-La. It's a Shangri-La.
But 25 minutes from the airport, international airport.
25 minutes from the airport, 10 minutes from the beach, and when you're here, you're a million miles away. I grew up my early years in India, then moved to Hong Kong, then went to England for my education, and then with businesses, my life was Hong Kong, London, and New York, and with stints in India on here and there, and lots of traveling.
Do you remember Hong Kong back then?
Hong Kong was beautiful. It was just incredible. I mean, and that's what I miss most is when I visit now, I just miss the old Hong Kong because there was such a lovely charm about the old Hong Kong, which now you don't have. Now it's just a concrete city. Everything works. I mean, logistically, it's just amazing. But the beauty and the charm and and how the people were, and the rickshaws and the trams and the lovely buildings. They were just beautiful. And you had a lot more of the harbour in those days. Now the harbour is getting smaller and smaller with all the reclamations. Soon Hong Kong and Kowloon are going to be, you can hop over.
So because you've been to so many places and you used to live in so many countries, your attribution to which country? Can you say like I'm I don't know, 30% Indian, 30%.
No, I'm Indian. I mean, because, you are where you're born, you are what your religion, what you believe in. I'm a Hindu. I relate to India, and I also relate very much to the Chinese culture, because that's where I grew up. I speak Cantonese fluently as I do English. And of course, English in England, because I studied there, I grew up there as well, and spent a lot of time there, had a lovely home there. I would say I'm pretty multicultural, and I've spent time in America, although the America I spent time in was, to me, a much nicer America than it is today. Today, it's a very difficult country to be in. Throughout life, it's all about experiences, and you gather experiences, and as you gather experiences, you keep changing and evolving, and it's really a journey.
I start coming to India for my videos, and I see the huge potential of India. It's on the rise, and people can feel it, I think. So people are super patriotic. They want India to succeed. How's your view on India? And now it's like the biggest country in the world in terms of the population. Yeah, what's your view on how India is rising for the last 5-10 years?
Firstly, if you go back to the older India, Indians were not respected. They were looked down upon. So when I first broke through the barrier in 1976, 1975, 76, with Gloria Vanderbilt, especially in New York, because it was very much a Jewish industry, the garment industry. And so I was the first non-Jew, and certainly non-American, to come into this in a big way. Of course, there was a lot of small, because overnight, the Gloria Vanderbilt business became so large, and then with Tommy Hilfiger, we became such a big company that I started getting, I was on every newspaper, magazine, and everything in India, as being the first Indian because the Indians were so proud that an Indian had made it in America, in an industry where there were no other Indians ever. And so I got lots of fan letters and people who just said, and telling me that how their lives changed because of me, that now the same garment manufacturers, where before it was so difficult for them to get appointments to see the importers, now people respected them, and if they said they're from India, people would say, oh, okay, I'd like to come in, and they made an appointment. So it changed India. And then the problem was that and also during the earlier years, the US had special visas. I think they called it, H1 visas or something, whereby if you're a professional.
H1B.
I think H1B, yeah. If you're a professional, you could then go to America. Yeah. And so what it did, it was a brain drain, basically. So they took the best of India. And so doctors, engineers, and all the smart people moved to America, and these people became along the way become the heads of hospitals, now head of Google, head of so on. And so because back home it was so difficult for them to do anything, because in old India it was such a strange economy. The economy wasn't a straight economy. If you wanted to buy a home, for example, you couldn't, even if you wanted to be honest, you couldn't, because you had to pay part of it in what they would say white, which means legal money that you got from your bank account they can see, and then the other part has to be actually in a bag of cash notes. Even if you're willing to be totally honest and you say, look, to the seller of the property, I'll pay you, you want $1 million, I'll pay you 1 million in rupees or whatever. The guy said, no, I don't want it, because if you pay me $1 million, then I've got to show that million, and I don't want to show that million because then I've got to pay tax on that 1 million, And so the black economy was bigger than the white economy. And then over the years, this changed, and I think Modi has done a great job. He's done a fabulous job, and IT, I think, was a great savior for India when IT came in, because it was so difficult in India to even get telephones. You had to wait 2 years just to get a telephone line in your home or office. And so what you would see is wires from one telephone, people taking your line, and multiple people using your phone. And then of course when all of a sudden when IT came in and the mobile phone came in, all of a sudden India was very lucky because it sort of leapfrogged the whole infrastructure, which they didn't have infrastructure. All the other countries for mobile phone, they had the old infrastructures around. But for India, didn't have it. They did very little. So they just leapfrogged and got straight into the the 21st century without having gone through the earlier.
Yeah.
So it was a great jump to India. So India changed dramatically, and then with that IT, they were able recently, India, with the help of the partner of Infosys, I can't remember his name, helped the government to register every single Indian and gave every single Indian a number, like a social security number, which they didn't have before, gave every single Indian a bank account, every single one, every villager, every hawker, everyone on selling vegetables on the road, everyone had a bank account, everyone had a number, and everyone had what they call a PAN number. They call it not a social security, they call it a PAN. And it was all computerized, and it was all done because of him. He came from Infosys, and it did it as a service to the nation. And because of him, he was able to do it in really very, very quick speed, and he did it. And that transformed everything. All of a sudden, everything was accountable. The government could track everything. Everything anyone did was, trackable. So then that whole white-black equation started narrowing, because it was very difficult then to do that. You had to be, and then salaries were more salaries were being declared. The middle class started to grow. Middle class didn't want to deal with the black. These were professionals. They wanted proper salaries. They wanted to use the money properly. And then the taxes started, coming down. Laws started changing. So this gradual process, which has taken 20 years, has gradually changed the nation. And now there's great opportunities in India for Indians. So Indians don't have to go abroad for their opportunities. They can have these great opportunities back home as well, whether they're in the IT sector or whatever sector that they want to be in. So you've got great local companies like Flipkart or Myntra or so many others that have now become multi-billion-dollar companies starting from nothing, So now the opportunities back home are alive and well. But the biggest problem with the government, of course, is that the fact that the population is so large. And that there's so many people and so many poor people, and it's not going to be a quick fix. It's not possible. Nobody can fix it, other than God. So one human is going to make that change. So we have to understand it's going to take time. But as long as it's moving in a positive direction, then okay, it's going to happen. But today we have the youngest population in the world, and we have very, very bright people. And so if you look at and you compare that to China or Japan or Korea and so many other nations who have an aging population, and their problem is their population is continuing to decline, and the people who are working are continuing to decline, so the GDP is just naturally going to keep shrinking, and it's just, so they're on a downward path. And India is one of those countries, because of its very young population, it's just going to naturally, it's going to just keep on growing, and the whole economy is going to be very substantial. So, of course, in the next decade or so, you'll see America obviously will still be there, but you'll be China and it'll be India, very, very strongly there.
We can see it actually in our YouTube analytics that the population, the viewers are younger. And also, because I mentioned last time, I get recognized on the streets in Singapore every day. But I would say the demographic is maybe 35 to 55, something like that. In India, I was recognized in Bangalore, and it was 2 times, and all of the crowd that approached me, they were in their 20s. I think they're also different because they're very active. I think they also see the momentum and feel the momentum that country is growing, that you see more opportunities. I also read the comments under my videos, and people say, okay, we're super proud about Bharat. Yeah, it's called
Bharat,
Bharat. We're super proud, and we don't want to go to the US. So I think that sense of patriotism, you can feel it there. And also it mixes with the huge history, super deep history of India. And there's something about it. So when I start coming to Mumbai, after I go back to Singapore, and then after a few months, it's oh, I miss something. I miss going back for some reason. I don't know why. I just want to go there. I see the colors, have this smell, noise, colors, people, they're super friendly, they're active. It's something about this country. And it's so huge. The scale is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and yet, in India, they're so different from each other, and yet so same. Because when you go from North India to South India, from Western India to Eastern India, the food, the customs, the habits, they're so different. At the end, all these Indians have this one common very same common, like, you know, right now, today, there's a great sense of patriotism, which I don't think they had before. Because now they feel we are respected. India is important. India matters, you know, in the world. And India is respected. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it's with Russia, whether it's with China, whether it's with America, Europe, and basically India is friends with everyone. India has no, and maybe I would say it's least friendly probably with China, but I wouldn't say China is not his enemy, and neither does China consider India an enemy, but it's not as friendly and the relationship isn't as warm. But other than China, I mean, every other country in the world are friends of India, and India is friends of all. Which is very unusual, and I think that in a way says more than anything else, you know, that comfort level about India. Along the way, you'll see a beautiful bronze sculpture, part of the Victory Monument in Kiev, which was given.
Oh yeah, I know this one.
Yeah, which was given to us by the artist who I think made that the original one. You can't even move it. I mean, just try to lift it. just lift it.
Oh my God!
This is seriously heavy. I think he gave this to us about almost 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. And today, with Kiev and all the problems going on with Ukraine, this statue becomes so meaningful.
Exactly.
You know, the Victory Monument. It's such a...
And you have a samovar. You know?
Yes, and a samovar that our friend Olga gave us.
All right.
Hey guys, just a quick announcement, don't skip. I'll be running a 3-day workshop called Fast Track to Views and Profits on YouTube. If you ever wanted to start your own channel, this is the best way to do it. You will learn how to choose the most profitable niche and how to beat the YouTube algorithm. You're gonna love it, I promise. Link in description, so sign up if it's for you. And now back to the video.
What would be your advice to young Indians who want to succeed in life right now?
Anything you start off with, you have to first believe in yourself. Doesn't matter whether you're Indian or French or Japanese or Chinese, doesn't matter. And whatever it is you want to start, whether you want to open a coffee shop or whatever you might want to do, you have to believe in yourself. And you have to accept that whatever you're going to do may not work the first time or the second time or maybe even the third time. But if you believe in it, you have to keep going. You can't give up. And you should never have a doubt, because once you have a doubt, that doubt will materialize. But if you have that faith in yourself and no, I'm going to do it. I know it's going to work, you know. But people say, but you're stupid. No, nobody's going to want this. No, I believe. What? You know, okay, you don't know. I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to do. I always say to everyone in life, I tell my children, I tell all young people, I say it's like being on a boat. Let's say you're on a canoe or a boat, but you have no oars, you have no rudder, you have no captain. You're on this boat, and you're going down this river or this waterway. You have no idea where it's going. And along the way, some days it's very smooth, everything is clear, the birds are singing, you've got butterflies, and it's so beautiful and lovely fragrance. And the other days, you've got thunderstorms and lightning, and the boat, you think you're going to sink. So now you have two choices. Since you have no control on this boat, you have two choices. One is called faith, and one is fear. So I would say faith plus fear equals 100%. So if you've got 100% faith, you have no fear. And if you've got 80% faith, you've got 20% fear, okay? So let's say there's two passengers. One passenger has got 100% faith. The other one only got 80%, 70% faith or whatever, but not 100%. So when going gets rough, what happens? The one who's got 100% faith, and the boat's going like this, and like this, the one with 100% faith is enjoying the ride. Oh, it's like going to an amusement park, you know, like going into these what do you call those the roller coaster. Yeah. You're going in a roller coaster, but you're not scared. You're enjoying it. You don't think you're going to die. You just enjoy it, right? And the other one thinks he's going to die, and he's in terrible fear, and he's thinking about this and thinking about that and thinking about all kinds of things, you know. And he goes through life all the time concerned, which is no different than people. If you don't have faith, if you don't have a conviction, if you don't believe, It's like this guy whose boss said, he's invited his boss over home with his boss and his wife home to his home for dinner. And this is before the days of mobile phone, when there was no mobile phones. So on the way, this fella, he gets stuck in traffic. Okay, the traffic is stuck. Now he can't get back home. He can't make a call. He's right in the middle of a highway. And at this time, he knows he's late. So what do you think happens? In his mind, he is already thinking of all the things that are going to go wrong, which is because his mind is set on a negative path. Oh, my boss and his wife will think, I'm so unreliable, and what kind of a person, I'm not going to get a promotion even. And then his mind goes more negative and he says, forget the promotion. I'm not even sure I'm going to have the job. And then maybe he'll fire me tomorrow. And then, he's going to fire me tomorrow. And then once I'm fired, oh my God, my mortgage, I can't pay the mortgage. I can't pay this. Oh, then my children, they can't go to school and this. So he has driven himself, his mind, taken himself right to the grave. And this man at the wheel, he gets a heart attack and he falls on the wheel on the highway, okay? Meantime, at home, the boss and his wife arrive at their home, and they've heard it on the radio, they heard it on the news, everybody knows there's been this big accident on this highway, and the traffic is stuck back for miles, and they say, oh gosh, I guess Jack's not coming home for a while, so we will just enjoy ourselves, and everyone. And they're having a lovely dinner, talking, laughing, until all of a sudden they get a call from the hospital, us telling the wife, oh, we just want you to know your husband had a heart attack, he's in this hospital.
Yeah.
So it's not about what happens, it's about your attitude in life, what you're thinking. And so you can, whether to be successful, whether to be a failure, whatever, it's all about your attitude. That's all. Always be humble, because the greatest asset, the greatest quality of a human being is humility, and the worst character of a human being is ego. Ego is your biggest enemy, and humility is your greatest friend. And if you stay humble, you're always going to be on the right path. Arrogance and ego brings arrogance and just everything that's negative.
Yeah.
I have the greatest respect for human beings. I mean, especially someone who is, who has less. So when someone is less, I've seen people talk down to those people who have more. In my case, I'm the opposite. I think, my God, I'm so lucky. Why did God choose me to have so much more?
Yeah.
Whether it's in health, more in health, or in wealth, or in so many different ways, And yet you look at these people who have so much less, And then, a saint, a great saint, one of his sayings was, he said, every night before you go to bed, ask yourself this question: did you make anyone's life today better? With your presence on this earth, did you make a difference, a positive difference in anyone's life today? And if the answer to that is no, then you wasted your day. Over here is a library, and I always find this quite amusing, because whilst architecturally this is Georgian, 250-year-old, is that all the pieces are antiques, whether it's the bookcase, the desk, the mirror, the fireplace, the lantern up there, and they are all the same Georgian period, 250 years old, and they were sitting in a room like this 250 years ago. And whilst today this room is new, but the pieces were in the room like this. So, because architecturally it's correct. It's exactly the kind of architecture all these elements were before.
Yeah. Do you drink?
Yes, I do.
What's your favorite?
I drink everything. I drink. But I'm not a big drinker.
Yeah.
But I love to drink. Social drinker. But I love to drink. I love to drink good things.
Yeah.
I enjoy everything. But my quantity is very small. Not big. I don't drink. I just don't gulp glasses down.
Before? When you were
Even
younger?
Before, never. I always
never.
drank the best, but always I enjoyed what I was drinking.
Yeah.
I was not drinking to get drunk,
Okay.
I was not just downing, take the vodka. If I was drinking, had the excellent red wines, or excellent this, or a great cognac, which was, and enjoyed every sip.
Yeah.
Not just gulping, which was, I was always, that's how I was brought up.
Let me be a little bit of devil's advocate. So because I see already people like write in the comments. Okay, it's easy for you to say that the motivation and this positive attitude is important because you came from not the average family, like wealthier family. But if you, let's say, below the poverty line, Indian, living in the country, and then making maybe $300 a month and have no good education, your chances to succeed in life probably much lower compared to other, more like, let's say, more privileged people.
It's both ways. There's so many stories of children born with a silver spoon.
Yeah.
And then the first generation, the father makes the money, and then basically the children blow the money.
Yeah.
And they're down to, and everything's gone. So it's not necessarily true. But yes, I understand the point that it's a much easier ride than with someone who's got so little. But then, today, I mean, there's so many stories around, especially in India. I mean, India's flooded with these stories. I see these stories all the time of someone who is just been in a food stall, a hawker, selling some food, and because they liked his particular type of dish that he made that he was selling on the streets, and from there he created the concept and he called it whatever the name. Give you this, someone else, if you'll open your shop there and you can sell my product there. And all of a sudden he's in a business, and I was just reading yesterday, and the guy does 80 crore or something, which is about $10 million, but he started with nothing, So at the end, it's all about opportunities that are offered to you, and of course, not everyone's going to make it. And yes, those who are born with a silver spoon, life's much easier for them. But it doesn't mean that just because you're born poor, it might be more difficult for you, but it doesn't mean that you can't make it. You can. And you look at India is a wonderful example of so many people, young people and older people who have made it, who had nothing. There's so many people, not one or two. There's so many examples of that.
Yeah.
So many examples. And people who came from humble beginnings, and even in the Western world, so many people with humble beginnings who built these large enterprises and businesses and so on. And it's through their sheer hard work and belief in themselves and continuing and believing themselves to make it happen. But it doesn't mean there's no guarantee in life it's going to work. I mean, there's no guarantee of anything. There's no guarantee that we're even going to be here tomorrow. But you've got to come out with the attitude that, yes, I'm going to win and I'm going to do it. Now, whether you succeed or not, there's something else. But the chances of success are going to be so much greater if you believe in yourself and you believe that you're going to make it work.
What else? What other skills or skill set that every entrepreneur or like someone who wants to be successful in life want to develop?
Well, you see, most entrepreneurs obviously are extremely talented and creative. And I would say generally many of the entrepreneurs lack financial control, financial management control. Yeah. And if there's one common downfall with most entrepreneurs across the line is their inability to control the finances. And so they need to recognize that. That, okay, this is my weakness. My strength is my creativity and my drive and whatever, but I need to find myself a great partner who is going to manage my finances and who's going to be strong enough to tell me no. Yeah. Because if he's just going to be an accountant, I'm going to tell him what to do, then it's meaningless. Yeah. Because the accountant's not going to. He's only doesn't want to lose his job. So you need a very strong partner who's going to tell you at times, whose strength is not creativity but finance, who manage about your financial health of your business, whether that person is a consultant to you or a professional or whatever it is. But don't save money on getting a strong financial person to be by your side and somebody who's watching out for you on the finances. That's important, very important. But on the creative side, you're the entrepreneur. You don't need any other creative person. You're the creative person. Creative comes from you, and everybody else is support to you. Yeah. But the financial part is where you do need help. Music room here.
Do you play an instrument?
Yeah, I play all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we jam, we do karaoke, we just have a lot of fun.
Have you met someone like the big artists like, I don't know, Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Yes,
these
yes. In fact, I had George Harrison for dinner. That was probably one of the highlights of my life. One of the people, really? Yeah, because I love the Beatles and I love George. George was he was so humble and so down to earth, and he was incredible because he He was coming to dinner, and dinner was meant to be, I can't remember whether it was 6 o'clock or whatever the dinner time was, and we had two other guests with us. I think we were 4 couples. And then we heard the doorbell, and it was George, and he said, hello, George, and I'm sorry I'm early, but do you think I can come in or I can come back later? And my staff called me, and this is my home in London, and he said the gentleman outside called George, I think George Harrison. So let me just look at the camera, and of course it's George, and of course, come in, please, And it was so wonderful because George then came in. We then went to our, my music room, and it was actually my study. And then I said to George, we were sitting down, and I said to George, do you think, I said, I can't tell you how excited I am just to sit with you. I said, it would be the thrill of my life if you could do one thing for me. And he said, what? I said, I'm going to put on one of your songs, your Beatles songs, and I want you to play the guitar, with that song. He said, sure, no problem. So I put on the music. In those days, of course, there was no iPhones or that you could take the video.
Yeah.
I didn't take any pictures. I know, but in my mind and that feeling, it's always there in my life. But that was one of the most wonderful, wonderful moments of my life. And sitting George Harrison, playing the guitar in our study with the music, and just him and me and no one else. That's it. It was just the biggest. What a thrill! And he's the nicest human being.
Should be the moments when you, let's say, you don't end up with the pipe dream, telling the truth to yourself. Okay, maybe this project, I just need to quit this project and start something else. Then you not pushing more for another 5 years, 10 years. And then, okay, I need to do something else. You know what I mean? Not to stuck with something that's clearly not working.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got to determine that, and so that's why you've got. You need to be smart enough to know that, and you got to feel it that what I thought was right was wrong, and why was it wrong? You've got to understand why it was wrong. If you don't even understand why it was wrong, why it didn't work, that's a bigger problem. So if you believed in it so strongly and it didn't work, unless you understood why it didn't work, you're not going to be able to move on. So you've got to understand why it didn't work. What was it? I'll give you an example of my own example. We went into India in 2004. And I was very clear we went in with 2 segments of businesses. One, which was in the popular segment, which was Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, and French Connection. And the other one was the luxury segment. And in spite of being an Indian, understanding India, knowing so much about India and the Western world and brands and everything else, even in my position, and I'm considered an expert in this field, it's certainly, as far as India is concerned, one of the few, if not the only Indians with this kind of experience. Even I made a mistake. I made a mistake in the luxury segment, because in the luxury segment, it didn't work. Why? Because in India, taxes were high, import duties were high. So the products coming into India, same Gucci bag or whatever, was more expensive in India than it was in Dubai or Singapore or anywhere else. And number 2, because of the lack of the size and scale of stores that you had, if you only had one store, there was you could only bring a limited range. So that if someone came into our store, they wouldn't have as big a variety of products that they would get, say, in Dubai or Singapore or wherever. And the most important is the luxury consumers are traveling all the time. So they're going to Dubai and Paris and Hong Kong and Singapore and London, wherever. And so wherever they go, they will go to the Gucci or Hermes or to Louis Vuitton or Celine or Dior or whatever, and they will shop there. Unless they need something urgently. Oh, for a birthday present, I got to buy something. But for themselves on a normal basis, no, they'd rather be going abroad because the price is better. Plus you got a much larger variety to choose from, and so on. So as a result, that segment of business didn't work for us. And so after losing money in that business for 2 years, we realized this is not the segment we want to be in. So we started to exit that business and started giving it back to the brands and letting them run the businesses themselves and whatever, and we exited that business. But in the meantime, we kept and reinforced our investments in the 3 brands that were working. So as a concept, even I was wrong, but luckily I had sort of balanced it. One did very well, one didn't, and then you exit the one that that you can. And I understood it, and I made a mistake. So you have to understand why it didn't work. Once you've understood it, you're okay, I made a mistake. I absolutely missed the basics. And it's not difficult. You know, people miss, even experts, even people, everybody misses something that is so simple in life. For example, when I was doing Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, and when we were ready to, when I came up with this idea to do jeans for women, and people said, I didn't understand why women could buy trousers which were fit for them. Women could buy jackets that were fit for women. Women could buy blouses or so-called shirts that were fit for women, you know, for the woman's fit. But there were no jeans made to fit women. Women had to buy men's fitting jeans. So they had to they were the straight versus the woman's body, which is curves in at the waist. So they either had to go and take it to a tailor and cut the two pieces out so they would curve in, or take a belt and just gather it in. So, and I kept saying to myself, something is wrong here. Levi's was the largest apparel company in the world in the 70s, the largest apparel company in the world. So neither Levi's, neither Lee, neither Wrangler, nobody made jeans to fit women. So I felt something is wrong. My thinking is wrong. I must have missed something. How can I, who's a nobody, I'm just a garment manufacturer. All I do is produce garments. How is it that these great marketing companies, the great apparel companies, how do they not know that women want jeans to fit them? So I said, okay, let me go around. I'll do some research of my own. So what was my research? Talking to my wife's friends. Hey, what would you prefer? They said, of course we like jeans. You'd be able to have jeans to fit. I mean, who the hell wants to, you know, go to a tailor and put these things, be so silly? And he said, oh, okay. And everyone told me the same thing. And yet, they were not available. So it's the same thing. Sometimes something so simple, which is right under your nose, you know, is there, but yet no one thinks of it. In spite of them being the greatest companies, the biggest apparel companies in the world, they didn't do it, you know, and we created it. So there are times and things that just some things which are obvious are not so obvious, you know.
Yeah.
So there's always opportunities. There's always. I think there was the chairman of Samsung, if I'm not wrong. I think I can't remember who it was who wrote the book. He said every pavement is lined with gold. I think it was him. I'm not. But you know, and he's basically saying the same thing. The opportunities are everywhere, and it's up to you what you make of it.
So now you rent this place for some super special events like weddings.
Yes, but we're at the very top end. We turn down a lot. We've just taken very few. We've got a couple of very important weddings coming up. We're going to be creating a membership only situation here. So anyone that wants to either have an event or even stay here, it's only through membership. So it'll be the most exclusive property in Asia.
What would be the price?
I haven't said it yet. Not said, but it's you know, it's going to be, but you know, but it'll be value for money in the sense that people who come here, you know, it's not anything you can get like in Phuket. There's no other property like this to compare it to. So there's no point of comparison even. So it's clearly it's one of a kind in Asia. And if someone wants to have that experience of having an estate in Phuket, being 10 minutes away from the beaches or from the best restaurants, and yet be in an environment where you're totally secluded and surrounded in green and quiet, and all you hear are birds and so on. Well, this is an experience.
Gloria Vanderbilt, her great grandfather, Cornelius, he was one of the richest people on earth.
Exactly.
Like ever lived, which is like, wow, mind blowing. How you met Gloria?
I met Gloria because I was looking, because of my concept that I wanted to do a jean to fit a woman. So as part of this concept, I said it's not only one part. I said, how do I market it? Okay, now that, let's say I've got the best product, I've got a product that women want. How do I now sell it? I want to put a brand on it. So I remember those days, the leading designer, global designer at that time was Yves Saint Laurent. He was like the god. I mean, everybody worshipped Yves Saint Laurent. And whatever he did, if he said this season skirts are above 2 inches above the knee, all the women in the world were wearing their skirt 2 inches. And next season he says it's 2 inches below the knee, everybody changed their skirt to 2 inches below the knee. You know, and so I said, and I thought to myself, and I said, I was imagining, I was walking in Bloomingdale's, which was the American department store in New York, and I took a blouse, and I said, or a jean? I said, if that same jean, or whatever the name is, if I change the name and made no change, it's just the same identical product, but just put Yves Saint Laurent's name on it, what would it do? It was obvious. I could sell it at a higher price, and it would sell more even at the higher price, even if I did nothing to the product. Yeah. That was the power of the brand, you know. So I said, okay, so I need a great brand. So I contacted a friend of mine who was in the business, licensing business, and he gave me a list of names, and in that list there was Halston and Perry Ellis and so on, and on that list was Gloria Vanderbilt. So I said to him, Leo, why have you got Gloria Vanderbilt there? You know, she's a socialite and whatever. He said, Mohan, I just thought, you know, you might be something that's interesting, and she's interested in getting into this sector. Oh, okay. So that night I went back. I was staying in a hotel. I was staying at the Pierre. So I remember sleeping in the middle of the night. I woke up and I said, wow, this is incredible. I said, can you imagine? One of the most known women in America, that everyone respected. People loved Gloria because of the life she had, you know, with the problem she had, the custody battle between her and her aunt. Yes. And her mother was an alcoholic. And so the aunt had custody and took over bringing Gloria up. And so women just loved Gloria. They adored Gloria, and they held her in such high esteem. And of course, Vanderbilt was like putting Rolls-Royce onto a brand. I mean, was no higher brand than Vanderbilt in America. You know, they were the number one, the richest family in the world at that time. And
another one, the Rockefeller.
Yep.
But maybe Rockefeller has a little bit of negative sometimes connotation.
Robert just didn't know, because Gloria was too, because it wasn't just Vanderbilt name, it was Gloria.
Yes.
It was that she herself had this incredible connection to women. I was looking for women's jeans. Yeah. So I wanted a brand that was going to connect to women. So a Rockefeller wasn't going to connect me to the women, you know, or a Whitney, you know, wasn't going to connect me to the women. But Gloria was. Yeah. Gloria was, and everyone knew Gloria. All the women knew Gloria. Every living American knew Gloria Vanderbilt, even more than Cornelius Vanderbilt, her great-great-great-grandfather, but everyone knew Gloria. Yeah. So she was a perfect choice. And so we signed up with Gloria. And then the third element was, now how do we get the message out? And so for the first time ever, we used television, which was television for the first time used on apparel. No one had used television on apparel in America. We were the first. So the three first taking place. First time a women's jean, using a brand like Gloria Vanderbilt, and then third was marketed on television. And it was a very simple commercial, 30-second commercial, which said on Sunday, we aired it on Sunday night, and it came, and it was this, Gloria Vanderbilt says, hi, I'm Gloria Vanderbilt. So, of course, everyone immediately recognizes, understand, and said, I've designed a jean to fit a woman. And then you have this man with the graying hair, glasses, when he's got his white cloak on, and he's a head tailor master, and he's showing, this is the man's body and the women's body, the women's body is like this, a man's body like this, and I've designed the jean to fit a woman, and then the camera goes into the back of the jean, which was on, to show the perfect fit, and that's it, 30 seconds, simple message. Next morning, the store opened on Monday morning. In 10 minutes, as soon as the store opened, there was a deluge of women that just rushed to the department. All the jeans were gone. Wow. And we had to use our station wagon to just put the jeans in, bring them in from our warehouse in Jersey. And the women were just tearing them apart. They didn't even wait for them to be ironed or pressed or hung, just out of cartons in plastic bags, And that was the launch of Gloria Vanderbilt, the beginning of not only jeans that fit women, but in that era, you could not wear, jeans were considered workwear, and it was insulting. For example, if you had to go to dinner to your friend invite you for dinner, and you wore jeans, you would be insulting your friend, because it's like, come on, I made a nice dinner for you, why you dress so badly, And then many restaurants would have signs outside their doors which says, no shorts, no slippers, and no jeans. Many restaurants. Same with clubs, any membership clubs, country clubs, so on. Same thing. No, when you go into a restaurant. So I wanted to change that as well. So, because our jeans were not workwear. Levi's, Wrangler, and Lee were selling at $7.99. Our jeans were at $32. We were 4 times the price. Because Not because we were just simply wanting to charge more, because the quality was just totally different. The fabric, the make, everything about it was so much more expensive. It's not like, oh, okay, one's a Rolls Royce, the Rolls Royce is a, it's an engine on 4 wheels, so is a Honda an engine on 4 wheels, so but they're different. A different engine on 4 wheels and a different engine on 4 wheels, and hence a difference in price between a Rolls Royce and a Honda. So it's the same thing. We produced, a really wonderful product. And we knew about manufacturing. We came from manufacturing, so we understood how to make a better quality jean. And then we created the next commercial, which was how do we upgrade jeans in the minds of consumers. So we created a commercial where this lady is arriving in a limousine, in a black limousine, stretch limousine. Her partner is wearing a tuxedo, all dressed up with his black tie. And he opened the door for her, and she comes out, and she's got a fur coat on, and jewels and diamonds. And they walk up, and they go to the Metropolitan Museum. And as they're walking up to the Metropolitan Museum, the gentleman takes her coat off, and she's wearing her Gloria Vanderbilt jeans and top. And she is going to the ball at the Metropolitan Museum. So the point was to say, we're not saying that you should wear jeans to the ball, but it was that automatically the assumption is jeans, it doesn't mean jeans should only be to go shopping at Walmart's or go picking up your school. It's like saying clothes. All clothes that you use for football should be the same clothes you wear. Everything's different, And so as a result, after that, little by little, Calvin Klein then followed, and other brands followed, and then slowly all the signs disappeared. It became chic, even for a man to wear a white shirt, a pair of denim jeans, and a navy blazer was really like a uniform for men to go to parties, to go out. It was like being chic in those days. And it was all that transformation that we did, that era.
That's so cool. So you changed the culture, like how people dress. Wow.
Hi, George. Hi, Gloria.
Hello.
Hey there.
Sawadika.
You want some food? Come on, let me see what I can get for you. Where can I get? I don't know if you'd like to eat this.
What do they eat?
Oh,
normally?
they just eat. They have their own food, but weeds and. Come on.
Hey guys.
Okay, let me see. Let me get something for you.
Wow.
All right, I know you like this.
That's so beautiful.
You like this? Hey guys. Oh, here we go. Yes? No? What do you think? All right, now he's going to eat. All right. Okay, finally.
So the first year of sales was 1976?
It was, around 1976.
Yeah. What was the biggest year ever for Gloria Vanderbilt?
I think around 80. They're about 79, 80, 81. Yeah. And then it started to peak off, and because we restricted into a women's business in those days, everything was quite segmented. And men were not so open, and to wear a woman's name. We felt we needed a men's name to go into the men's business, and hence we looked for a men's designer name, and we got Tommy Hilfiger, and that's how we launched Tommy Hilfiger in '84.
What was the revenue in a year, the biggest revenue for Gloria?
Oh, that time Gloria was around 500 million US retail. But those, don't forget, dollars. $1 in 1980 is very different to $1 today.
What would be the equivalent for now?
I don't know. For example, I knew I was offered to buy a 6-bedroom flat on Upper East Side, 5th Avenue, with the maids' quarters and everything, for I think it was about $700,000, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
But the monthly maintenance was I think $4,000 or something, and I refused it, and I said, oh, it's too much, the maintenance, Now the same flat, exactly the same flat, that flat today, I don't know how many tens of millions it is, on 5th Avenue in the 70s, facing the park in a historic building. So it's not even $1 million, and now it's, I don't know what it might be, 50 million, I don't know, it's huge. So it's very different what $1 was. I mean, you hardly had heard of $1 billion companies or billionaires. There was only millionaires and I mean, I can't remember. I think maybe in those days, only big companies were like the Exxon and Mobil, and those kind of IBM maybe, but those were the kind of large, giant companies.
Yeah.
Today, there's so many today went to trillion, not only billions, you know, Apple and so on, you know. Yeah.
The next big thing was Tommy Hilfiger. It was mid-80s. How you met him and what was the beginning of this journey?
Yeah, I have this great belief and firm belief and faith that everything's meant to be, and whatever's, you know, meant to be our journey, these people appear at different times in different places.
Yeah.
And so as such, Tommy just appeared. And as soon as he appeared, and we were interviewing different designers, and as soon as I met Tommy, I just knew he was the one. And that we knew each other from our previous lifetimes, and I wanted him, and he wanted me, and he loved India. He had been to India. He used to sit on the streets and drink tea in India with his friends, and he had worked in the Indian factories, and I found him to be very humble, very kind, so you know, not the typical American that you meet, and one of the least prejudicial human beings I'd met, and the kindest person I think I've met. And he never lost with all the success that he had, and he was going through a difficult time when we first signed him. He was going through a very difficult period, and as he grew, you know, did extremely well financially, and being the celebrity that he became. You know, one day I was going to after I had sold the company, and I was visiting Tommy, and he was so proud. He wanted me to introduce me to all the staff back there, the designers. He wanted to know, everyone to know.
Yeah, it's Phuket, normal, in August.
So Tommy took me to the back, and he wanted everyone to meet me. And but he never forgot where he came from. Like many other people, you know, people help them, and then they forget who helped them and how they got there.
Yeah.
Till today, Tommy's always says over and over, whether I'm there or not, he'll tell people, I'm only here because of Mohan Murjani. You know, and he's the one who believed in me and helped me, and that's why I am where I am.
So he was already like famous?
No.
Not yet?
No.
Oh,
in fact,
she was just struggling designer.
Struggling. And in fact, when we first talked to him, one of his requests was, Mohan, do you think we should change my name? I said, to what? He said, can we change it to Tommy Hill? And I said, why? He said, well, because nobody can pronounce my name. Everybody calls it Tommy Hilfiger, and somebody says something else, and nobody can pronounce Hilfiger. So I said, Tommy, no. Your name is so important. Believe me, when I'm done with the marketing, everybody is going to know your name, and they will learn to pronounce it, no problem. So Hill, there's lots of hills around, you know, but a Hilfiger, very few, just your family, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a unique name, and people will learn to pronounce a unique name. It just needs good marketing, and leave it to me, I'll do it for you. And so there was that. And then but along the way, I was just saying, he never lost sight of where he came from. His humility never changed. As big as he was, as famous as he was as humble as he was on the first day, if not more. He would go out of his way to help people. Because he became more famous, he knew how difficult it was for others. So he sort of emotionally, he felt their pain or their difficulties, and he would go to help. And during this visit, when I went to visit him, he was introducing me to the people, and he had hundreds of people back there. He knew everyone's name. And then one person, he went back and he didn't remember the name, and he said, Mohan, I want you to meet, and he said, sorry, what's, and he couldn't remember the name. And he came back and he said, gosh, I feel so bad. I said, about what? You know, later, gosh, you know, I forgot her name. I said, Tommy, how can you know, yeah, but no, I should remember her name.
Yeah.
And that's what he felt bad. And that tells you the quality of a human being.
So what was the biggest action or the most important actions that you done to make this project work and make it super successful?
It was having a clear vision of what I wanted the brand to be. It was very simple.
Yeah.
We wanted a younger Ralph Lauren.
Okay.
Simple.
Okay.
So when you have a clear point of view, it's easy to execute. But if you're all over the place, you can't execute because you don't know what you're doing. one of my mentors who taught me, and I remember having this on my desk in New York, which said, follow this. When you know where you're going, some roads will take you there, right? Suppose you say, I want to go to Bangkok. Okay, so I know some roads will take me there. When you don't know where you're going, every road will take you there. Because you don't know where you're going, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So, very simply, so in a sense, once you have a very clear objective, and you know, okay, I just want to be a younger Ralph Lauren. So, when you're designing something, and you look at the design and you say, wait a minute, does this fit what we're trying to do? And no, it doesn't. That's wrong. So we have to keep doing things that what would be a younger Ralph Lauren? What would the younger people, or people who wanted to look younger, feel younger, wear? Even if they wanted to wear a polo shirt, they didn't want that simple, basic polo. They wanted more color. They wanted some stripe in the inside. They wanted the buttons on the inside, or on the inside of the collar to be a different color, and outside to be a different, little, and the buttonholes, instead of just being, the threads just being in the same color or white, each buttonhole would be different color. So it was these little elements that was going to make the difference. And the fit, it wasn't just going to fit the body, it was going to be more oversized, drop on the shoulder, bigger in scale. So when you wore it, it was much more relaxed than a typical polo shirt, where there was a Lacoste or a Ralph. They have different fits, but Tommy Hilfiger had a very relaxed fit. So we knew where we were going, and of course, as soon as we launched, and the most famous, and is now in history and in all the students' marketing books and everywhere else, was that what they call the hangman's billboard, which was on Times Square. It was just one big billboard, white background, very simple. It says, the 4 great American designers are, and it goes number 1, P and and E, and other one was number 2 was I think R and and then L, and then I think C, and then maybe K. I can't remember who the third one was, and then the fourth one was T and H So everyone knew the first 3, but nobody knew what T and the H, because nobody heard of him. Nobody knew Tommy. Nobody. It was totally a new name. With our marketing campaign, we had organized it so that the morning shows, the news morning shows, they would be talking about it. So in the morning shows, people would be talking in the morning. By the way, Jack, people are talking about, have you seen this billboard? Yeah. What is this T and H? I have no idea. No. What is it? So all of a sudden, there was this big buzz going on in New York. And this went on for 3 days. And then I think we started, I can't remember which day, but then 3 days later, we had on all bus stops and whatever, and we filled in the 4th one, which was Tommy Hilfiger, and it's Tommy Hilfiger, and all of a sudden people got to know Tommy Hilfiger, and because we associated Tommy with the top 3 designers, and of course they hated it. The designers were very upset. Tommy himself was embarrassed. He said, come on, Mohan, we can't do this, And I said, Tommy, we're not doing anything wrong, We are saying they are great. We're not saying anything, and we're putting them above you. So what are we doing that's wrong, And so, of course, they all said, he just got there because of us, So it immediately put Tommy Hilfiger on the map. Everybody knew Tommy Hilfiger. They went in to buy the clothes. They loved the clothes. And after that, it just took off by itself, because then the brand itself was important. The clothes were wonderful. They were different to anything else on the market. It was a new niche that we had filled. In the same way with Gloria Vanderbilt, where we did it with women's jeans, this was creating a younger Ralph Lauren, something more casual, more comfortable, more fitted, more fun, and a lot of people were looking for that, especially younger people. And even older people wanted something, but I just want something but more fun and more relaxing to go out with.
Yeah, and 1981, you made your first 1 billion in a turnover.
In the Tommy Hilfiger was 1984.
1984.
Oh, yeah. No, Tommy Hilfiger launched. It was very small in the business when it first launched.
Yeah.
It was not as big as Gloria Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
It was a slower build. But of course, over the years, and today I think Tommy Hilfiger's, I think it's 7 billion or thereabouts as a business. And it's a wonderful journey.
No, it's incredible.
It's a wonderful journey. But what's wonderful, you see, for me, the most wonderful thing is my relationship with Tommy.
Yeah.
That he's still like my brother. We have incredible love and respect for each other. And I can he calls me whenever he wants. I call him whenever we want. We have an incredible brotherly relationship. There's nothing I can't tell Tommy. He knows everything about him. I know everything about him. He knows everything about me, personal, everything. And so we have an incredible relationship. Even though we're not doing business, it makes no difference. We're closer today, in fact, than we were when we first started. But then I guess it's all part of life. You see, it's where it started, and we're just continuing our journey, in a sense, from our previous lives. And so just a continuation. And so who knows where it goes. But life is all about meeting different people at different times, and they're like dots. And at some point in the future, these dots start to connect. And then you say, I met this guy 20 years ago. And because you met him 20 years ago, you're able to do something today. Had you not met him, it would not be as easy. But so at that time when you met him, you don't know why you met him. Everything has a time and a purpose. There's a purpose for everything. And then if you can just let yourself go and understand that you are not the creator, and that everything is just going to be there, and that you just got to let that flow take place, and don't judge. People judge this as this is terrible, or this is sad, or these are just labels, man-made labels. The reality is, every experience is just an experience. It's neither sad or happy or whatever it might be. These are our labels. But these are all different experiences for our benefit. For our growth. And so the one thing we all know, as soon as we land, as soon as we are born, the one thing we're guaranteed, there's only one thing: we're going to die. That's it. So during the process, we need to just enjoy that journey, because it's just a wonderful journey if you can let go and understand that it's not about you, and then that you can do so much more if you know you're not in control.
And speaking of people that you meet once, and then after many years, you maybe meet another time, and then it goes to somewhere from there. My first boss said this, and I remember till this day, you met people twice, which is like very smart way to put it. So you never want to leave the relationship on a bad note, on a low tone, because you never knew what happens next, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. When you
especially, what they say, the other saying, or the similar saying, is that when you're moving up, you're meeting these people. One day you may be coming down as well. So you'll be meeting the same people when you're coming down. So how you treat them when you're going up, that's how they're going to be treating you when you start coming down, Because money is one of those things. It's always up and down. It's never one way, right? My grandfather said to me, and it's been a family tradition, he said, money lost, nothing lost. Because money comes, money goes. That's just the way life is. Health lost, something lost. But if you lose your honor and your reputation, you have lost everything.
What was the most difficult moment in your life, on your business?
You go through financial ups and downs. So we went through, financial down after Tommy Hilfiger, when we had on October of 1987, there was this huge October, the Black Friday, the crash. And it was during that period that we also did Coca-Cola clothes. Because after Tommy Hilfiger, 85, we did Coca-Cola clothes, and I didn't want to, I want to take something that was totally different and move it into apparel, but not just cheap T-shirts, but they were expensive sweatshirts. And then it just became so big in the second year, it was 500 million, just that Coca-Cola clothes. Those days, 500 million of Coca-Cola. It was the biggest for us. But that caused me the biggest problem. Because what happened was there was an oversupply. Stock market crashed. We had goods, our supply lines, factories were producing way out, in months ahead. The stores already had goods. We had goods. More was coming, and sales collapsed. Everything collapsed, and we were stuck.
You remember the moment, your feelings?
Yeah. And it was because it was strange, because I knew it was going to happen, and I'd already instructed my people what to do, and they didn't follow my instructions. Had they followed my instructions, because I already foresaw that. I already knew that. I just knew this was going to happen with Coca-Cola. I knew there's going to be a day when it's going to just crash down, and I didn't want to be caught there. So I told my people what to do. They didn't do it. I have to blame myself for not watching my own people making sure that they did it, but they told me they did it, you know, so it was like one of those things, you know, at the end you got to take responsibility, you know, so it was my job. At the same time, you know, you don't pay top people and then and just make sure that they do it, you know, that's a much lower level. So that caused a huge setback for us, and, you know, which is why I had to then sell, you know, the majority of Tommy Hilfiger and, you know, keep some parts and sell some parts and liquidate some parts of Gloria Vanderbilt. I sold the Gloria Vanderbilt, the US Gloria Vanderbilt, and I kept the rest of the world. You know, I was just trying to balance to pay off the debts, and, you know, it was just a huge, it took time to recover. So, so it took a huge fall, but it was good. It was good. You know, everything good. Everything in life is good. It was another experience that I went through. So I learned from that experience.
But back then, at that moment, when you having all this mess, you also thought, oh, it's just a learning experience.
Yeah.
Or it was for you, oh shit, what's going on?
No, I was, of course I was upset, but at the same time I had total faith. You see, my faith never wavered.
Yeah.
I had 100% faith in God. I knew my great guru was Ma, and then my mom was my mother, like my real mother. I knew she's always holding me. So on that boat, so no matter how turbulent the waters are going, no matter what's happening with the boat, I know her, she's holding that boat. I'm not going to sink. I knew that for sure, 100%. So when you know you're safe, and then it's not fear anymore. And it's fear that drives you, you know, into crazy places. But if you don't have that sense of fear and you have that faith that everything's going to be all right, okay, you might go through a difficult time. That's okay, you know. You just go through it, and sure enough, things change. And again, things turn around, and you don't know what these opportunities are. And then sometimes you're doing something, and then it turns out to be something else, and then people think you're a genius. You know, oh my God, how did you think of this? And then you have to be honest and say to them, no, sadly, no, it wasn't my idea. It was the universe's idea. I was trying to do something else, but the universe helped me to transform this idea into something else. So it's not really my idea, you know. So I got helped, you know, as, you know, we're coming out of it.
Through your life, you built so many successful brands. What would be the top features of a successful brand? Let's say I want to build a brand, Max Chernov, the guy from Russia, who is like the #1 interviewer in Asia. What would be your advice to me, how to build the well-known brand?
Whatever your idea, I think you already accomplished the first point, which was you know where you want to go, which is what I said about Tommy Hilfiger. We said it wanted to be a younger Ralph Lauren. So you said this, so you already have accomplished the first part, which is you want to be the #1 interviewer in Asia. Yeah. So you now know where you want to go. So that's the most important. So you've already done that. So you already accomplished that. Good. You're not just saying, I want to be the most important interviewer, or whatever.
Yeah.
It is, you know, it's very specific. And when you're specific with what you need, then coming back to my old thing, which was, once you know where you're going, some roads will take you there. And when you don't know where you're going, every road is going to take you there. So once you know where you're going, every action that you do, every thought process that you're going to make, wherever you're going to make the investments, whatever your thing's going to be, you're going to be able to very clearly tell the difference whether you're on track or you're not on track, because you know what you want, where you're going. And if it's not that, then wait a minute, then I'm going off track. Why do I want to go and do that? Because that's not going towards my destination. You know, so once you know your destination, that's the most important part of it, and you've accomplished that.
In terms of like how people perceived my brand and how to build, like, I don't know, the positive attitude or the needed attitude towards the brand, any advice? Or how would you approach it if you, let's say, produce it?
Well, I think, look, you've identified what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to maintain consistency. You want to keep at it, and you keep determining and tweaking it. And some things that work better, some things don't work. Okay, so you do more of what does better. You don't do what hasn't worked. And over time, you'll continue to grow it, you know, and as long as you're consistent, you know, and you stay with that consistent, and it's working for you. And if it's working for you and you can see the growth and you're doing better and better year after year or month after month, then you know you're on the right track. But if you're not growing, and it's just going downhill or it's just going sideways, then you know something's wrong. But if you are growing, then you know what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. And you just keep on doing the right things, and then you'll get there. And you'll figure it out yourself, because you already know the destination. You know what you want to do. You know you want to be an interviewer. You know it's only about Asia, and you know what type of interviews have resulted in higher viewerships, and which interviews have not resulted in or resulted in low viewership. So you know which one, then you analyze and said, why did I get so many viewers on this one, and why did I get so few on this one? What was wrong? You know, is it the wrong subject, whatever, the wrong person, the wrong subject, the wrong whatever it might be, you know. And so you analyze it, and you think through this, and because as long as you're going in the same direction, you keep doing it better and getting more of what you do to be more responsive. So you're getting more higher viewerships on each one that you do, and less of the lower viewerships, because you've now fine-tuned it, you know, and you'll continue to fine-tune it, and it'll just get bigger and bigger, and your number of viewerships for the larger ones are going to be larger than before. So, and that's how you're continuing to grow.
Yeah.
And then once you've got to a certain point, at that point you might want to think, okay, now I've got here pretty good where I am now. What do I want to do with this? What's my next thing? So do I want to just to be only Asia? So you got two options, right? Then you got either you take your base of Asia and you do more with that base in some other way, or you take your other strength about being an interviewer and use that to go beyond Asia.
Yeah.
You know, so there's two elements to the push, either the interviewing part or the geographic aspect. So there's two aspects to it. So which one do you want to go to? Do you want to expand from Asia, go beyond Asia, or do you want to do, instead of, you want to stay with Asia, but instead of only interview, I want to do something else with Asia? You know, whatever it might be, I don't know. But these are the thoughts that'll come to you down the road. But first, you got to make a success of the first one.
Yeah.
And then once you got that, then you can start looking at the next growth, natural growth. What grows naturally after that?
Yeah. Who are the most impressive people that you met through your life? I guess there's so many, but something really, I don't know, politicians, artists, musicians, like anyone who really like impress you.
Well, the people who, you know, I've respected and been blessed and grateful to God for have been, one is my own guru, which has been Ma, and then my mother. And then, of course, I had this enormous, not pleasure, such a weak word, great blessing to have been so close to Mother Teresa. And she was just incredible, and just, oh my God, it was like being with, like you were being with God, and when she touched you, your whole body was like electric shock. It was just a touch, and she was so powerful. Her hands was double my size, and she was so tiny as a person.
Oh, wow.
But her power, you just felt that incredible power, and that halo on her, that whole aura of hers was just, it was just like God walking in that aura. And she certainly was very much up there. And then, of course, I had, you know, very fortunate to have met people like Dalai Lama or Mandela. You know, these are all private sessions with them and spending time with each one. And of course I met the Queen as well. But you know, those are, for me, that's not important. For me, the more important people are there. My mom, Mother Teresa, people like Dalai Lama, people like Mandela. Those are the people for me in my life who are I consider to be that I've been blessed, that I feel very blessed to have met, and I'm grateful. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I'm grateful that I've met in this lifetime. Perhaps again, I must have perhaps met them before as well.
How you see, like, from your perspective, like super high level, super successful, how you see where the world is going right now? Maybe not going into the politics in details, but what do you think the world is shifting right now?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned where we are. One is, of course, this whole geopolitical situation that currently, where somehow countries or people in power seem to have the ability of doing things which are clearly unacceptable by any means of the imagination. But on a different, without going into that area, which I think are quite obvious, but more importantly, I think on a global scale, is my greatest concern is where technology, AI is going. I think for the first time, humans will not know who the enemy is. And it's different when you know your enemy, okay, you know who it is, you know what you have to do, okay, you want to bomb it, you want to gun it down, you want to do whatever, or there's something and you can just unplug it and it's closed and it's over. With AI, you can't, there's nothing to identify.
Yeah.
So in a way, we're turning this into this being whereby we're going to be the servants or the subjects of this being and controlled by this being, and we don't even know if it's a single being or it's more than one. And with these beings, they take on a human characteristic as well, because of the AI and its learning, and they see all the human minds and how we think, how we work, our emotions and everything else, and they start developing and having the same. And as a result, they're going to also have their egos. Once those egos start arising in them, they bring on all the negatives of wanting more power. So just having the world by its if there's more than one AI, I don't even know how to describe it, but assuming there's two of them, well, then one of them would want to control it. So one's going to try to destroy the other. Or it may want to do things that are it's certainly humans will have no control over the world where we currently live in and the control we currently have. We're just not going to have that control. It can stop anything at once. In a second, it could cut off all IT, could cut off all power. Once you cut off power and the internet and everything, we don't know how to function anymore. You can't do anything. You can't call. You can't do anything. You can't buy. You can't, so you're down to the absolute basics of being a farmer and going to start, growing vegetables and, having chickens and having eggs and so on, and growing food and just living for yourself because nothing else is working. So as a result, my greatest concern is that not knowing where we're headed right now, and that where we're headed is not within our control, because right in the sense that no government right now can control it. Even young kids today are able to, get on and get into programming and create all kinds of stuff that they can do, which makes AI even more powerful. So we humans, unknowingly, are empowering AI even more on a daily basis. Some selfishly for our needs, greedily because of our greed, we get the benefits, so let's do more. But every time we do that more, every time it's more, it means that we're making AI even more powerful. And I think it's gotten to a stage now where it doesn't need humans anymore. It's fully capable of learning and empowering itself and learning more than any human could possibly teach it. It's smarter than any one human being. It's certainly it's combined the best human brains into one and more. So I don't know where this is going. So that I would think is my greatest concern. So while it is my greatest concern, I'm not concerned about it, because I believe, again, whatever the journey is, we're just souls. We're here for the ride in this body. Okay, so if we have to go, if this earth disappears, if all the human beings disappear, fine. Our souls we don't get carried. We don't disappear. The souls never disappear. It's like taking seawater, and you take the seawater and put it into ice, and then you make different ice cubes. In one ice cube, the shape is Max, and the other ice cube is Mohan. And then, this is Max and this is Mohan in an ice cube. You put those two ice cubes back into the ocean, and where's Max and where's Mohan? That energy just transforms, and it just becomes part of energy again. And these souls and all the souls that are still there and within our bodies will just continue on in this universe, because the universe is so, you can't even fathom, our minds cannot fathom what it is. It's limitless, it's endless, it's timeless. So we are such a small part of it, altogether. So in a sense, there is concern, but at the end, what's the point of being concerned? There's nothing to be concerned about. Whatever's going to happen, it's fine. It's going to happen. In the meantime, every day, I'm going to be a happy person. I'm going to keep loving. I'm going to try to make people's lives better. I'm trying to help people as much as I can. And that's all I have to do. It's a simple life. It's a very simple life.
Do you have any regrets in life?
I guess at times you do, but overall I don't. I'm just grateful. I think more than anything else, every day I must say thank you so many times. I'm just constantly saying thank you, and constantly thanking God, and constantly saying how lucky I am and how blessed I am, and always thanking God for His blessings and seeking His blessings. And my prayer is always to guide me, keep me on the right path, that's all.
Are you 77? 78. How does it feel to be 78?
I don't think about it. I don't think about it, I just feel I'm the same as I always was. My character's been the same. It's always been the same. Obviously, my body can't do what I could do, but it doesn't bother me either. It's not like, I'm not looking to, I'm not going to be able to run down these steps. It's not even a thought. So it's just you do different things in your life. And do I want to go back? For example, if God said, "Oh, do you want to go back 20 years, 50 years?" Then no, I don't. I love where I am, and I've always loved where I was, because every point where you are, it's a beautiful place to be. It's a lovely place to be every time in your life, because it's another experience.
What's the meaning of life for you?
To be a good human being and teach others to be a good human being, do the right thing, and accept everything with an open mind and an open heart. That everything that comes to you has a purpose, and that purpose is always good. There's never a bad purpose. So whatever if you think it's bad or this, it's not. Everything is there that's done for you. It's done for a good reason. It's like your parents. I treat God like my mother, my father combined and more. And so a parent will never want to do anything bad to their child. So but there are times when your parent might have hit you or punished you because you did something. They want to teach you. It's not that they want to harm you or do something bad to you, because they're doing this so that you can be better, so that you can be, because you went off track, and they want to put you back on track. And that's what at times God does, We're like his little children. So it's whatever he does, and if we think we're in a difficult place or something has happened to us which we don't love, there's a reason. And the reason is always a positive reason. It's for our good. And as long as you accept that all the time, then it doesn't really bother you that much. You just learn from it and move on.